Besides the king, the queen is by far the strongest piece. So what would you do if you had a game with 6 queens over the board? I came across this fascinating game where at a point both sides managed to get 3 queens. I've never seen such a game with so many queens, but if you found a game with even more queens, please let me know in the comments. But let's start analyzing the game a few moves before, where both sides have 4 queens on the board, which is already quite a lot. And here it is white to play. White has an extra pawn, but black has this very threatening pawn on a4, which is very close to the promotion square, so the position is definitely not clear. And here white played this position as a regular ending. Even though we have 4 queens on the board, and as we'll see later on we have 6 queens on the board, white is sticking to basic ending principles, one of them being to push past pawns. So here white played a very strong move, g4, which is the only move that kept the advantage. So here white is simply pushing the g pawn. Amazingly, in this position, even though white has a lot of firepower with 2 queens, white is unable to create a sound attack against black's king. For example, after queen to b5, even a check, there are no other good checks. Black can simply block the check with queen to b2. This would even improve the queen on a1 was very limited, and now the a pawn is ready to advance. White might give another check on f1 for example, but this is not achieving anything. Or if white trades queens, then this is only helping black because now the a pawn is ready to advance, there is no queen on a1, so this position is even balanced. So here neither white nor black can develop a quick attack against the king, so white simply played the move g4 as if there were no queens on the board, just pushing the passed pawn, planning to promote another queen. And here black also correctly played the move queen to b2, the queen is better on b2, covering checks on the b file, and now the a pawn is ready to advance. And here in this position again, white continued pushing the g pawn. If white tries to stop the advance of the a pawn, now black can defend the pawn and counterattack the pawn on e4. This pawn e4 is very important because it is blocking some checks against white's king, so here white's king is very safe, so white is not achieving anything by trying to stop the a pawn. So after g5, black continued with a3. Similarly, black doesn't have an easy way to stop the passed pawn. For example, after a move like queen to b8, white simply pushes the pawn, and if white tries to block the promotion square, now white can simply play a move like queen to e2, trying to attack this queen on b1 that is now less defended with a queen on g8. So even though we have a lot of queens on the board, both sides are just following very basic principles, either pushing the passed pawn or trying to attack the king whenever possible. So here after a3, g6, a2, g7, black promoted and white promoted, and here funnily enough both sides have a lot of queens, but neither of them can deliver an easy check to the opponent's king. This is normally a very important idea in queen endings. The side attacking first is very often the side giving a checkmate or getting a decisive attack, but in this position neither side can achieve that. And here black tried a very interesting move by going queen to a3. The queen on a1 was the worst queen because it was on the corner, quite passive there, and here black is seemingly offering a trade of queens. But this is actually an interesting trap by black, and here when we have many queens on the board, even a very tiny mistake can lead to checkmate or finish the game very quickly. So here taking on a3 is actually a losing mistake for white because black will capture on f2 instead of capturing the queen. And here if white goes to the corner, after queen to h2 we get a checkmate, or after king to h3, now black captures the queen and we get a very quick checkmate. For example, after queen to g4, queen to g3, we get this very typical checkmate which is called the ladder checkmate. So here material is not as important as attack, so here black is just winning the game. White definitely has to be careful. So here white played the move queen g to g3, defending the queen. White could have defended with a move like queen g to f7, because here black had a very brilliant idea that black missed. Here black traded queens, but black had this idea of sacrificing a queen by taking on f2. So after queen d takes f2, no matter how white captures, for example if white captures with the queen on f3, black will trade on g3, and after king takes, here black has this very brilliant idea of going queen to c3, forking the king and the queen, and if white doesn't capture, then we get a very drawish queen ending, or if white captures, then we get this very nice stalemate. And after queen takes f2, if black captures with the queen on g3, we get a very similar idea. We just trade queens on f3, and after king takes, queen to c3, we get a very similar checkmate. After queen takes, black's king doesn't have anywhere to go, so this is a draw. But instead in this position, black captured on f3, and after queen takes, we get this ending where white definitely has the advantage because black doesn't have any attack and white is a pawn up, but it's still very hard to progress in this position because white doesn't have any passed pawns here, and the game continued queen to c2, offering a trade of queens. Instead of trading, white first played the move queen to b5, the evaluation wouldn't change a lot. If white traded queens, white still has an advantage in this position, and here black blocked the check, and after queen f to d3, giving a check, we got this queen ending. Now we have only one pair of queens, and after king to c1 and king to f3, we get this position where white definitely has an advantage, but it is quite hard to progress because white doesn't have any passed pawns, and whenever white tries to progress in this position, for example bringing the king to attack the pawn e5, black still has this idea of giving checks. But funnily enough, in this very complicated game, black lost after a very basic mistake. So here black played the move queen to d4, which is a good move. Here white cannot trade on d4 because now this pawn cannot be stopped. This is even a winning position for black. For example, after king to e2, black supports the advance of the pawn with king to c2, and this pawn is going to promote. But here white simply played queen to e2, and this position, white's idea was probably to play a very long game pressing, waiting for black's mistake, which is what actually happened after just a few moves. So here black played the move queen to d6, and after queen to c2 giving a check, here black made a very basic mistake and played the move king to d2. It was better to keep the king on the b file, because after queen to d2, now white simply plays the move queen to d5, forcing this trade of queens, and here black resigned because after queen takes and pawn takes, this pawn cannot be stopped. So that was probably a very sad way to end for black, because black had played very well so far. But this is actually quite common in long games. After a lot of play, you get very tired, so making a basic mistake is something that can happen. So I hope that you enjoyed this very exciting game where we got a lot of queens on the board, but even so, both sides played the position as if it was a very basic ending, just trying to push the passed pawns and promote them. So no matter what position you get on board, always keep the key ideas in mind, like pushing passed pawns. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That's it for now, and I'll see you on the next video.